Emma and Sarah had been inseparable for years. Their friendship was one of those rare bonds that survived time and distance, growing stronger with every shared moment. They met in college, sat next to each other in classes, and spent countless late nights talking about their dreams and fears. Emma always admired Sarah's warmth and kindness, the way she lit up a room with her smile. But there was one thing Emma had never quite understood: Sarah's husband, David. David was a quiet, reserved man with a calm presence. He wasn't the type to draw attention, but when he spoke, people listened. Emma had met him a few times at get-togethers and always found him polite and respectful. A man devoted to his wife and their life together. Still, there was something about him that made Emma a little uneasy, though she never put it into words. One Friday evening, Sarah invited Emma over for dinner at their cozy suburban home. It was one of those gatherings that felt casual but important: friends, chatting, laughter filling the air, the scent of homemade food lingering in the kitchen. Emma arrived, happy to see Sarah, but also a bit tired from the busy week at work. She barely expected anything unusual. As the night went on, Emma noticed something subtle yet impossible to ignore. David was looking at her differently. His gaze wasn't the quick, polite glance of a host welcoming a guest. It was slower, more deliberate, the kind of look that lingers just long enough to be noticed but leaves you questioning if it was really meant for you. Emma felt a strange flutter in her chest, a mixture of curiosity and caution. At first, she tried to ignore it. She focused on the conversation, on Sarah's stories about work and weekend plans. But every time she glanced at David, he was watching her. Not in a rude way, but in a way that felt oddly intimate. She caught herself blushing when their eyes met, quickly looking away, but the feeling didn't leave her. It was like a quiet dance of glances, each one more charged than the last. Emma reminded herself who David was, her best friend's husband, a line she had never dreamed of crossing. Yet the way he looked at her stirred emotions she hadn't felt in a long time. She had been so focused on Sarah, on their friendship, that she hadn't realized how lonely she sometimes felt. David's attention awakened a longing she tried to suppress. The evening grew later and guests began to leave. Emma stayed behind for a few moments, chatting quietly with Sarah in the kitchen. David was nearby, fixing a drink. Their eyes met again, and this time Emma didn't look away immediately. There was something unspoken in his gaze, a question hanging in the air that neither of them dared to voice. Emma's mind raced. What did this mean? Was David unhappy? Was he looking for something she couldn't give? Or was it simply a fleeting moment, a mistake? She shook her head to clear the thoughts, feeling a mix of guilt and excitement she couldn't explain. As she left that night, Emma glanced back once more at David standing in the dim light of the hallway. Their eyes met, and for a brief second, the world felt suspended between them. Emma's heart pounded. She didn't know what would happen next, but she felt the beginning of a story that could change everything. Back at home, Emma replayed the night over and over. The glances, the tension, the unspoken words. She questioned herself. Should she tell Sarah? Should she warn David? Or was this just a test of boundaries, one she wasn't sure she was ready to face? The days passed, but the feelings stayed with her. David's curious looks had awakened something. And Emma was caught between loyalty to her best friend and the pull of an unexpected connection. The safe lines she'd always respected were starting to blur, and Emma realized that nothing would ever be the same again. Emma couldn't get the memory of that night out of her mind. David's eyes, the way he looked at her with something deeper than friendship, replayed in her thoughts like a persistent song. The more she thought about it, the more she realized it wasn't just a passing glance or harmless curiosity. There was a silent invitation there. And part of her was both scared and drawn to it. Days later, Sarah was out of town for a work conference, and David reached out to Emma with a casual message. He mentioned a community project they were both involved in and asked if she could stop by his place to go over some details. Emma hesitated, her heart fluttering with mixed emotions. She knew this could lead somewhere complicated, but she felt a strange need to be near him again. After some thought, she agreed. When Emma arrived at David's house, the atmosphere felt different. Without Sarah around, the space seemed quieter, more intimate. They started talking about the project, but the conversation quickly shifted. David's usual calm demeanor softened, and his eyes held a vulnerability Emma had never seen before. She realized that beneath his composed exterior, he was searching for something. Maybe comfort, maybe understanding. As they talked, Emma felt a connection growing between them. It wasn't just about attraction. It was about two people recognizing loneliness in each other. David confessed that marriage had become routine, that he sometimes felt invisible in his own home. Emma listened, her heart aching for him and for the complexities of love and commitment. The lines between friendship, and something more blurred in that quiet room. Neither spoke the words that hung heavily in the air, but their eyes said everything. Emma felt herself drawn closer, her usual caution replaced by a tender curiosity. She was torn between the loyalty she owed Sarah and the unexpected closeness blooming with David. They shared stories, laughter, and moments of silence that felt charged with meaning. Emma noticed how David's hand brushed against hers briefly, a small touch that sent a shock through her. It was subtle, but enough to awaken feelings she had tried to keep locked away. She wondered if David felt the same, if this was more than just a moment of weakness. The afternoon passed quickly. But when Emma left, she felt both lighter and more burdened than before. She knew this was dangerous territory, and yet she couldn't deny the warmth that had blossomed between them. Over the next few days, their messages became more frequent but carefully guarded, filled with double meanings and silent longing. Emma struggled with guilt. She loved Sarah deeply and couldn't imagine hurting her. But the connection with David was unlike anything she had expected. It wasn't about betrayal. It was about human need for attention, for understanding, for feeling alive. Every interaction with David made her question what she wanted from her own life and relationships. Meanwhile, Sarah remained unaware of the growing tension. She trusted Emma and David, believing their bond was unbreakable. Emma felt the weight of this trust pressing down on her, making every smile feel heavier, every word more careful. One evening, Emma and David met again, this time at a quiet coffee shop away from prying eyes. They talked about dreams and disappointments, sharing pieces of themselves that no one else knew. The conversation drifted naturally into more personal territory, and for a moment, they both wondered if their lives were about to change. David looked at Emma with a softness that spoke of regret and hope. He admitted that he was confused, caught between his love for Sarah and the unexpected feelings that Emma had awakened in him. Emma confessed her own fears and desires, her voice trembling with the weight of what was happening. Neither of them wanted to hurt Sarah, but the emotions were undeniable. They both knew that what they were feeling could lead to heartbreak. But they couldn't stop themselves from exploring the connection. Theirs was a delicate dance, filled with hesitation and longing, a silent question hanging between them. What if this was love in a form they had never expected? As the night ended, they parted with a lingering glance that promised more but also warned of consequences. Emma walked away feeling more alive but also more lost than ever. She was caught in a web of emotions that threatened to unravel her friendship, her values, and her heart. Back home, Emma lay awake, her mind racing. She thought about Sarah's kindness, David's vulnerability, and her own unexpected feelings. The safe world she had known was slipping away, replaced by uncertainty and desire. She knew the next steps would be the hardest, yet that everything could change with just one choice. Emma's world was shifting faster than she could control. The moments she spent with David were no longer just fleeting encounters. They were charged with meaning, and with every passing day, the invisible line between right and wrong grew thinner. Yet Emma found herself unable to step back. The quiet tension, the stolen glances, and the gentle conversations had awakened feelings she hadn't expected. Feelings that were both thrilling and frightening. One evening, Emma received a message from David asking if she could meet him to talk, just the two of them. His tone was serious, and Emma felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She agreed, knowing this meeting could change everything. They met at a small park, under the soft glow of street lamps. The world around them seemed to pause as David spoke with honesty she hadn't heard before. He admitted his marriage to Sarah had become distant, not because he didn't love her, but because life had worn them down. He confessed that he felt lost, caught between loyalty and desire, between comfort and the unknown. Emma listened, her heart aching. She understood the complexity of love, how it could grow complicated, messy, and painful. She shared her own struggles, her loneliness, and how she had felt unseen for so long. The emotional walls they had built around themselves started to crumble, and for a moment they allowed themselves to be vulnerable together. But then reality intruded. Emma thought of Sarah, the best friend she had promised to stand by, the woman who trusted her without question. She realized the weight of what was happening and the potential damage it could cause. The secret connection between her and David was no longer something small or harmless. It had become a force that could tear apart lives despite the growing emotional bond. Emma and David agreed they couldn't continue down this path without consequences. They both felt the pull of their loyalty to Sarah, the fear of losing her trust, and the pain of betrayal. It was a difficult decision. They promised to step back and reevaluate their feelings. Days passed, but the tension didn't disappear. Emma noticed David's presence more keenly at social gatherings, and the unspoken understanding between them lingered in every glance. Their secret was a quiet ache, a shared burden that made every interaction both tender and painful. One afternoon, Sarah returned from her trip earlier than expected. Emma's heart raced when she saw her, full of warmth and unaware of the storm beneath the surface. Emma decided to keep the secret, hoping to protect their friendship and the fragile peace between them. However, fate had other plans. At a small dinner with friends, Sarah caught a glimpse of something, a lingering look between Emma and David that didn't fit the picture she had believed in. Her eyes filled with confusion and hurt as she quietly questioned what was happening. Emma's world felt like it was unraveling. She wanted to explain, to tell Sarah everything, but the words stuck in her throat. The guilt was overwhelming, but so was the hope that somehow they could heal and find a way back to trust. In the weeks that followed, the three of them navigated an awkward silence, each carrying their own pain. Emma realized that sometimes love wasn't just about passion or connection, it was about forgiveness, understanding, and the choices that defined us through it all. Emma and Sarah found moments of honest conversation, peeling back layers of hurt to find the core of their friendship. David, too, faced his own journey of reflection, understanding what it meant to love and to respect the bonds he had. The story didn't end with easy answers or clear resolutions. Instead, it was a tale of human complexity, of hearts caught between loyalty and desire, of mistakes made and lessons learned. Emma knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she also knew that love, in all its forms, was worth fighting for. As the days turned into months, the three of them began to rebuild, slowly and carefully. Trust was fragile, but not broken beyond repair. And in that fragile hope, Emma found a new understanding of what it meant to love deeply, to forgive, and to move forward.